What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 135, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and as usual, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Physical Copy himself, Ethan. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing great. It's been a hectic week, Kevin. Yesterday, I celebrated my 4-year anniversary with my wife, Bucky Blue.
Ooh,
So
nice,
we went out
nice.
for a very nice dinner. It was awesome. Had a great time. And we also got a cat last Saturday.
Mm.
Yeah, and now it has to be wearing a collar because she's licking the spot where she got spayed. So she's very upset with us. She's giving us the cold shoulder, but we're trying to let her out of it so she can groom herself and stuff. But she's not happy right now, Kevin.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
she'll get over it.
yeah,
She'll
she'll be
she'll
fine.
she'll be fine.
She'll be
She'll
fine.
realize, like, yo, they give me food, they give me
She just sleeps
home.
all day. Like,
Yeah, that's what cats
what
do.
else do you got to do?
Does she have her favorite spot that she likes to sleep yet?
The couch right now is very
Mm-hmm.
nice, and then for the first 4 hours of us going to bed until she wakes up and starts running around and going crazy.
Oh,
But
we had to kick him out of the. I can't deal with it.
I love having them in the bedroom; they're great. But she also likes the cat tree. We got this cat tree that's actually taller than me. I'm 6 foot. It's like 6'2", and she gets up there, but she can't go up there right now with her collar. So she'll be back up there soon.
Our one cat likes to sleep underneath our bed. It has drawers, like you can pull out the drawers.
Oh yeah,
The cat likes to squeeze
yep,
underneath the bed. He shouldn't be going out there. He's too big. But
yep.
then he'll make his way from the underneath the bed into the drawer, and so you pull open the drawer. He's just sleeping in there, and I'm like, what? Why is this your favorite spot in the whole world?
Yeah, our cat's really small, but her favorite spot when she gets scared, because I vacuumed today, right? And she does not like the vacuum,
Same.
right? The
Yeah.
spot she runs to when she's scared is on top of the toilet well, like that big piece in the back that holds all the water. She climbs on top of that and just loafs on it. I don't know. It's so random, but it's great.
Cats are wonderful creatures, but
Yep.
this is not a cat podcast. It's an Xbox podcast, and
Could
we
be.
are right here on YouTube every Thursday, whether that's live or recorded. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our latest podcasts. We're putting out content, a lot of content, everyone still. All right. And if you want more content, you can go over to patreon.com/save the game media. Choose the tiers right for you and get exclusive bonus post shows like the one we're gonna do after this episode. I know I said that last week, we didn't actually do it, but this week we're actually doing a post show. So choose the tiers right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Bucky Blue, Amon, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher, Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotright, Dave Harp, and the Xbox Expansion Pass. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. We got some stuff to talk about this week, Ethan. All right,
A
I
lot
thought
of topics. Good.
last night I was like, oh, it's gonna be a slow news week, and then woke up this morning and everyone's like, here you go, here you go, here.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow,
And we got 100 viewer questions, which I love. My
yes,
favorite part of any show. So let's get into it, man.
love me some viewer questions. But before we get into those, we gotta start every week like we do by going around the room and asking one question. That question is, what have you been playing, my friend?
Obviously, more Jedi Fallen Survivor. I won't talk about it anymore because I've talked about it at length. Great game. Go out, play it. I booted up Stray because my
Ooh.
wife asked me to play it because we had just gotten the cat and she
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see me play Stray. The cat loves watching me play Stray. Like you can press the circle button and it meows the cat and stuff, and you can
Mm-hmm.
play with other cats and they make noises. I remember when I first booted it up and you're in that little sequence where you're with the 3 other cats and everyone's meowing and stuff. Her pupils just went boom. It got so big. It was really interesting to see her reactions to everything. Pretty cool game. The mechanics are really fun, being able to jump around as a cat. I'm not super far into it. I think I'm like halfway through the second chapter. So I've been sort of dabbling in the puzzles and stuff. I just did my first like big puzzle with all the computer systems and everything to get the little robot that gives you the key or whatever. But really cool aesthetic, really cool world that you're in. It makes me feel like I'm in like a Little Nightmares esque world, except I'm not being attacked by a bunch of like crazy monsters yet.
Except
I
it's a
know
good
there's
game.
I know there's enemies. Stop it, Kevin. I will not have you slander Little Nightmares on here. We're gonna get canceled. You already got the Minecraft kids on us. Don't get the Little Nightmares kids on us. They're weird. But great game. Love the platforming of it. I'm hoping that the puzzles get a little more complicated and complex, and there's some more mechanics introduced, which I'm assuming there will be. I don't even have that little backpack yet that allows you to translate and stuff apparently. So
Mm.
we'll see where it goes from here. I'm interested, but I do want to finish up Fallen Order or Fallen Survivor because I got 50 hours into it now. And with a full-time job and everything going on, it's hard to put 50 hours into a game. I've been slogging through it. We're almost done. I'm doing a lot of side stuff right now, but I'm ready to finish up that main campaign.
Well, I thought you had already
You
played
flash-
Stray for some
Why
reason.
you flash the Little Nightmares poop?
Yeah.
Why is everyone crapping on one of the greatest side-scrolling horror experiences
It's
ever?
boring. It's janky. It's boring.
It's
I don't like
not
it.
janky.
I
Little
don't know what
Nightmares
everyone
2
sees
is
in
a
it.
masterpiece of a video game, Kevin.
Nope.
So good.
I wasted $5 buying that game on sale.
Oh my
Anyway,
God.
I thought you had played Stray for some reason before, like when everyone
I've always
else had
said I
picked it up.
wanted to.
Okay.
I've always said I wanted to, but I never got around to it. It was just one of those things. But my wife was like, "Can you play Stray? I want to see it." And I'm like, "Sure, whatever. Let's do it."
Well, for those listening, Stray has been rated by the ESRB for Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S, so could become an Xbox any day now, really, any moment.
But it's free with PlayStation Plus, so of course I'm gonna be. Also,
Yeah,
there's
Game
some
Pass.
haptic feedback mechanics in it. This really just the scratching so far. I don't know if they introduce any later on, but it's cool to scratch on rugs and stuff with the triggers and
yeah, it's
everything.
fun. It's fun. It's a fun game.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mav in the chat. What up? How's it going, Mav? Okay, so I'll keep mine short because, like you, I have just been playing basically what I played last weekend. That is, I rolled credits on Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus. The game grew on me. It grew on me a lot more as I went on
Good.
because the characters got more in depth. The story got way better, where you started getting things like demonic possession and like bigger events instead of like these tiny contained little stories that I was getting along the way. There is there is a growing trend though, however, with these Falcon games. Um, and that is when I roll credits, you get a nice little message that says, "Go back and get the true ending." And I go, "I hate you. Why are you doing this
Pull
to
the
me?
Nier on you.
You just did this with Cold Steel 4, and Cold Steel 4's original ending sucks. You have to do the true ending to be satisfied, and that's the canon ending. This ending, I was like, that was a satisfying ending. I enjoyed the ending to that. All right, like I liked it. So I don't think I'm gonna go back. Hot take. I don't think I'm gonna go back and do the true ending.
Your brain's gonna allow you to not go back and do it.
I rolled credits so I could say I completed it. All right, I don't need to do everything.
Yeah.
And I feel satisfied. That's my
Okay.
I feel satisfied with the journey of this game. No, Mav, I did not say Tokyo had some Dookie plus.
It might. Who knows? I don't know.
No, I feel satisfied with the journey I took with this game, so I don't think I'm gonna go back. Probably just look the endings up on YouTube to see if they're anything better than what I got. But
See, I want to talk a little bit about this. What is your overall sentiment on games that do that? Because my mindset, you know me, I'm more of a completionist. I like to methodically go through a world. That's what I'm doing with Jedi Survivor right now, is exploring as much as I can, doing all the side stuff before moving on in the main quest. If I get presented an option to replay the game because there's a different ending, I almost feel obligated that I have to do it and waste another like 10, 20, 30 hours to get through it just to get a different ending because it just bothers me so much. Obviously, you're not like that, huh?
No. I'm not like that. So Cold Steel 4 was a different because I was like, I want the canon ending because I'm going to be continuing this series. This is more of like it's a one-off game. I liked the original ending. I felt satisfied, so I don't feel like I need to go and see the true ending, which I have an idea of what it is. I can piece it together from like context clues, and it's a whole. You know what's annoying though? Is there's a true ending, and then I looked it up, and there's a true ending where after you get the true ending, they make you go do another thing. And I was like, you at this point, just stop the game. All right, we don't need continuously, like, it bothers me when games don't know when to end. That's a big thing for me. Like, know at what point you've done your mission, your creative vision is complete. You don't need to just keep. Everything doesn't need to be tied up in a pretty bow. Okay, like we can have some sadness in games.
There's a reason that I've replayed Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 over 15 times, Kevin. It's so I could see every little bit that those developers programmed into every single game because there's a lot of different avenues you can go down in a game like that. Not every game I could do that with. It's very difficult. Mass Effect is lucky because I love it so much. It's great.
Yeah, I love Mass Effect, but I have I'm closing the book on Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus. I am now looking for a very short game to play between now and Diablo 4. All right, I'm not.
Ooh.
I have some.
Tears of the Kingdom, real quick
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
You
real
can
quick.
jump
I'll
into it.
knock that out real quick. Yeah, yeah. So I have the Caligula effect on my PS5. That's too long. That's a 40-hour
Mm,
JRPG. I'm not gonna knock that out. So I'm probably gonna dive into Game Pass, PS Plus, see if there's any
nice. Yeah,
little games I can pick up and just knock out real quick. Ravenlock would have been good, except I knocked it out already because it's
already
three
done.
hours long.
Yep.
But I'll report back on that and see what I can find next
And
week.
I'll report back on Tears of the Kingdom because I'm jumping into that starting
Ooh.
probably Monday. I'm going to be
Ooh.
jumping into that. So we'll see.
Okay. Kyle has done 80 something shrines already,
I
and
know I've been
he
seeing his posts on it. That it's making me jealous, but
he
I
was
need to
telling
jump
me
into
his
it.
eyes were hurting at one point because he
Yeah,
wouldn't stop playing. I
that was
was
me with
like,
Elden Ring. It's
all right,
bad.
bro, you guys are gonna bleed, but
It's okay.
uh, we can move into the news, Ethan, because we're not. No, that's all we're playing. So, story number one. It's probably our big one, but well, it depends on what in terms of business. We got a game I want to talk about, but story number one: the EU has approved the Activision Blizzard deal. So the European Union regulators have approved Microsoft's $68.7 billion deal to acquire Activision Blizzard just weeks after the UK's CMA blocked the deal. This comes from Tom Warren over at The Verge, who says, "quote The EU found that Microsoft would have no incentive to refuse to distribute Activision's games to Sony, and that even if Microsoft did decide to withdraw Activision's games from PlayStation, this would not significantly harm competition in the consoles market. The EU did express concerns regarding the distribution of ABK games on PC and cloud markets and offered the following remedy. Quote, the European Commission has identified remedies to allow for the deal to go ahead through 10-year licensing deals that Microsoft has offered to competitors. These include a free license to consumerism EU countries that would allow them to stream via any cloud gaming streaming services of their choice all current and future Activision Blizzard PC and console games that they have a license for. Cloud providers will also be offered a free license to stream these games in EU markets. These licenses are automatic and mean that consumers will have the right to stream ABK games they've purchased or subscribed to on any cloud gaming platform. President of Microsoft Brad Smith confirmed that this will apply globally. So I said a lot there, Ethan. I don't know if you caught it all. Kind of blacked out while I was reading it. All right, it's a whole bunch of words. I'm like, what words? But you're muted.
Wow, just a bunch of business word soup. I said, but I picked it up.
So how are we feeling? The EU has approved the deal. One of the big three has given the go ahead.
I mean, I think this one we were more expecting that they were going to approve it. I don't think there was any really big signs from the EU regulatory body saying that they didn't want to approve it. What they've said, what their concerns are kind of going along with why the CMAs blocked everything, but they did offer that remedy. So I guess that's why they went through with it. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter though, unless they can get approval from CMA and the FTC. We have to remember Microsoft will still have to go through a fight with the FTC. FTC filed a lawsuit against them to try and block this. So there's a lot of hoops that Microsoft has to jump through. The EU confirming this deal, I think that was something that we saw coming a mile away. I don't think there was any doubt that that was going to happen. So it's just good to see another barrier get knocked down. But I think we need to focus on CMA and FTC right now because that's really the main blocking point for this deal.
So going into the deal, M&A lawyer said the EU is typically the hardest one to get through.
It doesn't seem like that. The
Turns
CMAs have ripped us apart.
Yeah, turns out the EU is much more open to this deal than the
Yeah.
FTC or the CMA. What I want to talk about primarily is their remedy that they've offered and Microsoft has
Yes.
accepted, and we'll talk a little more about it in a different story
Yep.
because it seems to be already going into effect. So essentially, the EU said that the deal can go through if Microsoft allows consumers who have a license for an Activision Blizzard game, say Call of Duty. If you buy a Call of Duty product on Xbox, you need to allow them to play that via cloud on any cloud gaming service of their choice after that. So essentially, you get a license that transfers any product, any cloud streaming service, right? Is how
Right.
I've interpreted, is how I've seen this read. And the big one I hear is that they can't charge the cloud gaming providers for providing this license. They have to give it to them for free.
Mm.
It's, so basically, Microsoft is saying, okay, we agree to this. So they're now eating the cost of licensing deals for cloud gaming providers because we know for a fact that they were going to be like, we're going to make these deals, but you're going to pay us to stream our games, right? Like that's how it works. So that's gone. You now open your ecosystem up a little more. Just we've already seen this with the cloud gaming deals, but essentially they're saying you can take the game you bought and go anywhere with it. We don't care. You can go to PlayStation and stream it through PS Plus streaming, right? Like that's
Right.
completely fine. You go to NVIDIA, you can go to Boosteroid, whatever those places they made the deal with are. So this is really Microsoft putting their money where their mouth is, saying that
Yeah.
we really do want to get this deal through. I'm still very concerned about the CMA and the FTC, to
Yeah.
be honest. I don't think this. I saw some people online being like, the deal's back on, I'm like, you all
No.
need to slow your
That's how
roll.
this
This is
works.
one out of the big three that needs to say yes, and the other two are still very
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 no.
opposed. Yeah, the
Yeah.
CMA, so I don't know if you saw the chain of tweets from the CEO, the CMA. They were like, yeah, EU, you can do what you want, but we think you are wrong.
We think
Like
you're wrong.
they
Yeah.
went at them in a Twitter chain, being like, "You're
Yeah.
letting Microsoft dominate this cloud market for the next 10
Which, by
years.
the
This is
way,
dumb."
awesome that that's our world now, where giant regulatory bodies are tweeting, doing twit longs, going against companies and stuff. But anyways, the remedy that you were talking about, I think it's really cool because I think that's what Xbox really wants. It wants to put all of its games into different ecosystems. It has been putting out all of these deals, and we've talked about it. The deal with NVIDIA, the deal with that they tried to strike with PlayStation for Call of Duty. All of these things were to back up their argument, saying that they weren't making a monopoly by buying Activision Blizzard King. And it seems to have worked out in this case. So I think the remedy that they presented to Xbox is exactly what Xbox wants. So I think Xbox is going to take that opportunity, regardless of whether this deal goes through or not, is they want all their games on different platforms. So it's a good remedy.
Sam in the chat says this is a big concession and a smart move by Microsoft, but cloud/internet infrastructure just isn't there yet for so many people to reliably stream any of these titles. And I think that is a big point that people need to remember, where
Right.
they're agreeing it now for the next 10 years. That's what this remedy is. They're agreeing to give this remedy for 10 years, where I don't think the cloud infrastructure and gaming space is really going to blow up in the next 10 years. I'm sure there'll be improvements and some
Mhm.
more people getting into it, but it's not going to become, in the next 10 years, the main way people play games. So
Yeah.
in 10 years, when they can revisit this stuff, maybe Microsoft is okay. We'll take this hit now, because afterwards we
Right.
can make some money on this when the cloud gaming market maybe exists at that point.
Yeah, and what Sam said is sort of the core of the argument as to why the decision by the CMA and the FTC doesn't really make sense, because their main sticking point for their decision was they didn't want Microsoft to monopolize the cloud market. The cloud market's not that big. It's very minimal. It makes up a fraction of gaming. Most gaming is done on PC, on console, native run, right? Cloud gaming really isn't done often, right? Because so many people have issues having access to it. I live in Vermont. It's a very rural state. I can get good enough internet to play online and stuff like that. But if I'm cloud streaming, it's not going to work. It's simply not going to work. The entire state probably couldn't cloud game unless you're up in Burlington and our city. We call it our city.
Mhm.
But that's probably the only place in the entire state where you could get away with cloud gaming. And even then, you're not going to be playing Call of Duty on cloud because it's just not going to work. So,
I I know, using my hardwired internet connection here, which is 500, I get, more or less. Um, it's not the next would be a gig, but
yeah,
500 megabytes. All right. PS Plus streaming still doesn't work very well for me.
right.
It's very frustrating. And I know it's not Microsoft, but it just goes to show, like, even with a very good connection,
Mhm.
hardwired cloud gaming still isn't quite where it
Right.
needs to be in order to be like a true market where people can play games. And I'm sure it's fine. It's fine for certain games, very turn-based, slow games where things like reaction time doesn't matter. you do take a hit with resolution, you do take a hit with other the input lag, stuff like that on cloud
Yeah.
gaming right now. So we have a long way to go in not only the cloud technology but the infrastructure itself.
Yeah, exactly. So just we got to hope that they see that light and then see that cloud gaming is not a monopoly, because it really doesn't exist in our space that much right now.
I'm gonna be listen. I know people won't. We don't fanboy here, okay? But I'm gonna say something. All right, I'm gonna say something right now. Part of me kind of thought the EU was gonna say no, and then Microsoft was just gonna kill the deal, and then we could all move on with our lives. So
Yeah.
part of me is kind of like, now they're gonna drag
Now
this out.
Microsoft
Now they're
has
gonna
a
drag this
focus,
out.
a narrative now. They
Yeah.
can go to the CMA and say the EU approved us.
Now they're definitely gonna
It's gonna be
fight.
tough.
Which
It's gonna be a slog.
if the EU had said no, I think they call
Hey,
it quits and just.
but more Hogue Law videos. He's back. He's feeling healthier. We get to see him in action again. So excited
That's
about
true.
that. Yeah.
Well, before we get into the other big news, let's just quickly go through the Game Pass games that are coming for the second half of May. So, available right now, you get FIFA 23 for console and PC. You get Eastern Exorcist for console and PC. You get Ghost Lore for console. May 23rd, you get Planet of Lana for console and PC, which is getting apparently rave reviews. It's going to be one of the biggest indie games this year for sure, so keep an eye on that. May 25th, you get Cassette Beasts for console, which is already out on PC and has an 89 on OpenCritic. All right, so if you like those Pokemon style games, keep an eye on this one. I think I might check that one out when I have some time. It's a shame it's coming out like a week before Diablo. You also get Massive Chalice for cloud and console, Railway Empire 2 for cloud, console, and PC, and May 30th, you get Chicory, A Colorful Tale for console and PC. Ethan, any of these piquing your interest?
I remember seeing Chicory. I want to say they advertised it during a Nintendo Direct. I remember seeing a little bit of footage from that, and it looked pretty interesting. So that might be a game that I check out. Planet of Lana, I've heard a lot about. I haven't seen a lot of footage of it, or I can't remember any advertisements off the top of my head that I've seen. But it seems like it kind of snuck in to the zeitgeist. People talking about it, like you said, really great reviews. So it might be something I check out. Again, though, Tears of the Kingdom is probably going to be my next big project. So lots of big games right now, taking up a lot of my time. I'm hoping maybe these are.
Are you playing Diablo?
I got to get around to it at some point, but damn, Kevin, I work 16-hour shifts. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm trying to game as much as I can on my days off, but it's hard to keep up. It really is.
You bring that Switch to work. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that where I work.
Yeah. 1 second. All right,
second.
got the Korok seed. We can. What do you need?
No.
None of, like I said, Cassette Beasts I'm interested in trying out when I get some time, because it's a Pokemon style game. It's very highly rated. None of these other games are really calling to me. I have FIFA 23 already, like I bought it, so that's not anything for me. These other ones. Now I looked at Eastern Exorcist. It's apparently people call it 2D Sekiro, so I'm out immediately. Okay, like I ain't playing that game.
Kevin's done.
Yeah. So nothing really here for me for game. It goes back to say I really think they were banking on Redfall for being the Game Pass game this month.
Yeah. I mean, I will agree with you on that, but I do love seeing these small drops with a lot of little indie projects and smaller games. I think these are wonderful.
Upset. I see a lot of people upset about
Stop it.
If you go online and look after these Game Pass drops, the amount of people calling it Indie Pass or saying they're going to cancel, and I'm like,
that would be awesome if they rename it Indie Pass and it's nothing but dope indie games. I'm
like,
in heaven. I'll pay $25 a month for that.
I'm just saying, what have I said for the last year plus, Ethan? Game Pass is going to become Xbox first party indie games and some AA games.
Yes,
all right.
Exactly.
If you are not going to constantly see those AAA third party games on Game
You're not going to
Pass.
get Guardians of the Galaxy 4 months after it comes out often. Like that was rare.
Yeah. It's get used to it, folks. That's all I'm saying. I really,
that's great. I love that.
I'm fine with that. I think that's a great value for money.
Yeah, absolutely.
especially because double A's have been knocking it out of the port a lot more than the single player or triple A
What was
games
that
lately.
Portal-esque one that you played earlier
Ooh,
that you
the
reviewed? It was really
Entropy
good. The
Center was
Entropy Center.
it's
I
so
still need to
good.
play that. I
It's
still need to play
so
that.
good. I recommend it to everyone. It's so good.
Go
But
check out his review. His review right there.
yeah. Story number 3, though, Ethan. This broke this morning and set the internet ablaze. I can't speak today, guys.
The Internet, though. That's a cool name.
I had some PC issues before. All
Oh,
right, we were
y'all should
30
have seen
minutes
his
late,
face. His face was the face of a PC gamer that just troubleshot his computer for 30 minutes to get Skyrim to run with weird mods.
and
It was rough.
I really think it's thrown off my whole flow. I can't speak properly. My
He was
brain
sweating.
doesn't work. It was one of those things where I just stared and was like, What is happening?"
The
And
1,000-yard stare of a PC gamer. Yeah.
PCs just break on their own. Okay, you don't do anything to them; they just get worse magic. They're like,
It's like,
"Tell you
I
break.
don't want to work today.
Yeah, don't want to work."
I'm not going to do it.
You know what an overcurrent is? I'm like, I really don't.
Yeah.
But like, can you stop saying it?
We get fired when we say we're overworked. Our PCs can just be like, we don't care.
Anyway, Mortal Kombat 1 has been revealed. NetherRealm's next game isn't Mortal Kombat 12, as many expected. Instead, the new game will be called Mortal Kombat 1 in what is essentially a reboot in the franchise. The CGI trailer and info provided afterwards confirm Mortal Kombat 1 is a new Mortal Kombat universe created by Fire God Liu Kang. And if you aren't familiar with the Mortal Kombat lore, spoilers for Mortal Kombat 11. At the end of Mortal Kombat 11, okay, Raiden and Liu Kang fuse together to make Thunder and Fire God Liu Kang, and they just
That's
call him
cool.
Fire God Liu Kang. And then he made a brand new universe. So there's a bunch of time travel, okay. So if you hadn't played Mortal Kombat 11, I just told you how it ended. All right, sorry for you, but that's the story.
It's been out for how many years
I
now?
don't know. We are now in this new Fire God Liu Kang universe, and the game promises new fighting systems, game modes, fatalities, reimagined versions of their iconic characters, along with an immersive story campaign. The game is scheduled for a release on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PC, and somehow the Switch, and it's coming out September 19th, 2023. If you pre-order on PS5 or Xbox Series consoles, you will get access to a beta in August. Ethan, did you see this trailer? What are your thoughts about Mortal Kombat 1?
I didn't see the trailer, but I do want to say I think this is a great move by the makers of Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat has been a staple in the fighting game community forever. It was one of the first like mainstream fighting games ever released. I remember it is the first fighting game I've ever played in my life. I think I forget which one it was. It was whatever one was on the Sega Genesis. My cousin had it. We played some Mortal Kombat. It's the first fighting game I ever played. Still not big into fighting games, but I know Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is something that is treasured by a lot of people. Recently, it just hasn't really been in the fighting game scene like crazy. More people are focused on some of these new guys on the block, like Guilty Gear Strive. There's a lot of really great innovation going on in the fighting game community. Obviously, Smash is more popular than ever before. And I think Mortal Kombat wants to come back and be a part of this scene again and really make a big impact in the fighting game community. I think a good rebranding, a sort of reset would be really healthy for the franchise. I think this is a good move. I think a lot of people have talked about this going back to like Mortal Kombat 8 or 9. Like this has always been talked about. And I think you're starting to see people talk about that with Soul Calibur. Like when games just get to the 12s, 13, like it's starting to get to a point where you need a bit of a refresh. You need something different. You need something new. And I think this is a great move by that team. I think it's going to be exciting. I hope it's a great game. Mortal Kombat, even though I'm not a fighting person, I will be buying this game just because it's Mortal Kombat. This is one of the first video games I played as a young kid. I think it's something that you need to honor and respect and be excited for.
So I'm not a Mortal Kombat guy. I much prefer the platform fighters and then the anime Arc System Works style fighters. I used to play Mortal Kombat. I think the last one I played was X, and I remember because Kyle used to kick my butt in it all the time. This trailer was hype. Like it was just a CGI trailer,
Excited
but
to see it.
the models looked fantastic. It looked absolutely gorgeous. I cannot wait to see what this looks like in engine, like gameplay wise, and whether we get that at the PlayStation Showcase this week or later down the line. I'm sure the game will look great. They showed off what I assume are some of the new fatalities in that CGI in this game. It goes from the trailer goes from like questioning things. Like it shows Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and it's like, will you be mortal enemies or will you be foe or friends? And it's like, okay, when you say immersive story campaign, are you going to like somehow allow players to make decisions about like who their friends are, who their enemies are outside of the
Sounds right up
traditional
your alley.
Mortal Kombat rivalries? Because you saw
Yeah.
some of those classic Mortal Kombat rivalries, and then they were like kind of like teasing they could be friends. And I was like, I don't know if they're just doing this for the trailer or they're just
Yeah.
doing it, or they're doing it to say like, hey, the story's going to have these elements. I think going back to the like rebooting it is a great move, because the last one, like I said, had a bunch of time travel. Like it's very complicated. The lore,
Yep.
the whole thing is very hard to understand if you aren't following Mortal Kombat, which I wasn't. All right. I looked up those spoilers because I was like, what is going on? How does Liu
Yeah.
Kang have fire god powers? And then
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. This makes sense. He fused with Raiden. Of course, I should have figured that out. I'm still very confused on how this game is going to run on the Switch, as I mentioned.
Don't we say that about every game that says it's coming out on the Switch?
Well, it's a current gen only game, so PS5 and
Yeah.
Xbox Series consoles, and then PC, and then the Switch is clearly the outlier. Which, if they really want to make this game look as good as possible, like the Switch is going to have to get a dumbed down version, or
Right.
play through the cloud. Like those are your options. There's
Yeah.
no way that you get a Switch version that is anywhere near comparable to the version we're going to get on PS5 and Xbox Series
It's going
consoles.
to
It's
have
just
to
not
be
going to
like
happen.
back in the DS era where there was just different versions of games on Nintendo. We've talked a little bit about that in the past, but
September 19th for a release date. That's September is stacked for me at least. All right, you got
Lord have mercy.
Starfield on September 6th. Okay,
That's 400 hours of my life down the drain.
You might have Spider-Man if the rumors are to be
That's like
believed.
100 hours down the drain.
You're playing Spider-Man for 100 hours?
I guarantee you they're going to make this game bigger than Spider-Man 1. Spider-Man 2 is going to be huge. It's got to be, right?
We'll see. We'll find out next week probably. And then you have for me, there's a few JRPGs coming out in September as well, but then you get Mortal Kombat, and like I feel like September has quietly become a very stacked month, and this one's right there. September 19th gives you a little space. Obviously it's a different style game to those other ones, Spider-Man and Starfield, but I know Mortal Kombat 11 sold like 15 plus million copies, so I'm
Ooh.
expecting this one to be huge, because
Bonkers.
I think the reboot is really going to appeal to people. I think Mortal Kombat as a brand has been coming back into relevancy. I know Sam in the
It's good.
chat, he said with a sequel to the Mortal Kombat film in the works and video game adaptations getting more and more popular, it's a genius move to reset the lore for the most part to make it narratively accessible to anyone. And
Yep.
that is what I agree with. I think Mortal Kombat, like I was saying, more relevant than ever before. And while it isn't my preferred fighting game of choice, I do think it's had a resurgence, especially with that. I don't know if you saw that movie. Apparently it was
I loved the movie.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I loved it. We did a review on it on the channel. Did
I
we?
didn't do it. I didn't
Was
do
this
it.
before I even joined you guys? I don't
That's
remember. I know I did something for it. It was great. I loved it. I know a lot of people kind of crapped on it and said it was like a B movie, but I thought it was good fun. There was a lot of fun characters in there. It was great.
Well, make Injustice 3. That's what I'll say. I want Injustice 3. But yeah, Mortal Kombat 1 looks cool. Excited to see more.
Can't wait to see tournaments.
Yes.
I one thing I will say, I'm not a fighting game guy, but I love watching people play it. So I would love to see Mortal Kombat get back into the big fighting game tournament scene.
Let's move on to story number 4, and I kind of hinted at this, but Xbox brings PC games to NVIDIA GeForce Now. Sarah Bond has announced that starting today, NVIDIA GeForce Now and cloud gaming members in the UK, the US, and the EU, and around the world can stream Gears 5, and on May 25th, fan favorites Deathloop, Grounded, and Pentiment will join the service. This is the first step in their 10-year partnership with NVIDIA and Xbox that they made to get the Activision deal through.
Yep,
but
exactly.
Seems they're gonna do the deal with or without the Activision Blizzard deal going through. So what do we make of this?
Yeah, this is great. I mean, this is Xbox's strategy to get their games on every platform, like we've said, beaten into the dust. But if you remember, this deal was made with NVIDIA to get NVIDIA's backing on the purchase of ABK. Originally, NVIDIA was going to go against it, say, yes, they're trying to monopolize the cloud industry because NVIDIA at the time was going to be a cloud competitor to Xbox's Game Pass and their PC Game Pass and everything. With this deal, though, NVIDIA came out and said, okay, we're good with the ABK deal now. Because we got 10-year commitment from Xbox that they're going to put all these games on our service. But it's good to see Xbox continue with its commitments, even though it didn't work out the way they wanted it to, or at least that's where it's heading probably. But it's just great, and I think it fits their strategy for what they're trying to do and getting their games on every service.
I think that these sort of deals, even if the Activision Blizzard deal doesn't go through, making sure you follow through with the deals that you've made with people
Exactly.
like Boosteroid, GeForce Now, and I don't know, they didn't make one with Luna, but get one with Luna first of all. But you should be honoring those deals that you did make. Bring games to the service because it's not like it's not hurting you in any way because you still have to
Yeah.
buy the games through Steam or Epic to stream them on these
Mhm.
cloud gaming services. Okay. So you're still getting the revenue there, and then you have a deal, and it's just going to allow people to play your games everywhere. But if for some reason Activision Blizzard King doesn't get approved by the FTC or CMA after these appeal processes, right? It's not like Microsoft is going to say, well, we're never going to acquire anyone again, right? Like maybe they go for
Right.
someone else and then they're still under the scrutiny. But if they've shown, hey, look at all the games we're putting on these cloud, we're not, you, I know you said the remedies, but look what we're doing anyway, right? Like
Yep.
you didn't make us do this because the deal went through, but we honored it anyway. So maybe it increases the chance of getting their next acquisition through
That's
if
a
the ABK deal doesn't go through.
Yeah, that's a really great point because we've talked about how if this deal doesn't go through, Xbox obviously isn't going to go after a big publisher for a very long time, right? But if they put out this these feelers and they make these deals with all these companies and integrate themselves with all of these different services, then when they do go to make that deal again, there's no argument to be made because Xbox has decade-long commitments with all of these companies. Hey, all of our games are going to be everywhere. You
Proven
can't
track
say
record.
proven track record, exactly. So I think that's a really great point you made.
I don't really have much more to say on that. It's awesome to see people can go stream Gears 5.
Oh yeah,
Side note, call it Gears of War. All right. I don't like this Gears 5 nonsense.
Gears of War 5, Kevin. That's
Gears
what
of
it
War
is.
6. Make it happen.
Let's do it.
All right, last story before we get into viewer questions. Story number 5, Xbox might offer, quote, timed slices of games or games with ads. So, speaking with the Rolling Stones UK, Sarah Bond once again said that Xbox is exploring additional gaming business models than those they already have in place. So, currently they have pay to play, free to play, and then live service models, right? Like those are the types of games they make. They also have Game Pass model, which they've introduced in more recent years. However, Sarah said, we've talked about how we've talked about how we're experimenting with other models. Like what does it mean for advertising in games, which is more prevalent in mobile? Are there models of that would work well in PC and console? Are there other models where you might have timed slices of games and stuff like that? Providing creators with options and choice enables them to experiment and do what they like and actually create more immersive and creative experiences without having to fit into a mold. And because it was the UK, they spelled mold Mould. Weirdos. What are you doing?
They're only the originators of the English language, but they don't get it right.
I,
It's weird, right?
color, I can
Come
live
on.
with. Favorite,
Armor.
I can
Armor.
live
Who
with.
says
Mold,
armor?
mold.
Mold.
What's going on here? Um,
Too funny. Sorry, Sam.
Ethan, I want to go first on this one.
Yeah, please, because I got a lot to say too. We're both gonna be angry old men here.
Do not put ads in video games. It works in mobile because mobile gaming is a lot less like it's more casual. Okay, I'm gonna call it what it is. All right, you boot
For
up a
people that drool on themselves. Sorry.
wow,
Sorry.
wow, okay.
I didn't mean to say that.
But if I am playing a game on my $500 console and I get a nice little pop up
Oh.
for some random ad not associated with the game or telling me to buy some gems or weird stuff that they do in the mobile space, you're going to make not only me but everyone else angry. Her thing here where she says are there other models where you might have timed slices of games and stuff like that? Sarah, let me introduce you to the concept of demos.
Whoa, whoa! One
Back
thing
in the
that
day,
PlayStation does really well, I gotta say, is doing demos.
we all clown on play. Well, my problem with the PlayStation demos is that they lock game trials at the premium tier, which
Mm.
is isn't the way I would do it. I think everyone should be able to do game trials just to see,
Hey,
but it
it
is.
saved me from playing Forspoken. Okay, so
Oh, okay.
I'm happy.
But Sarah, come on. Timed slices of that's literally the definition of a demo. You get to play a small segmented piece of the game for a limited time. What are we doing here? That model's existed for 20 plus years. I used to get discs in magazines that would have demos.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
This is I don't know what they're doing.
So
This is crazy. I get what she's trying to say. Okay. She's trying to say, like, how can we add revenue to make more money for creators and not be intrusive to gamers at the same time? Ads is not it. Time demos, great idea. Every game should have a demo. Timed slices where you have to pay to play a certain amount. I'm not for
yeah.
that.
So we've had this conversation before. I think it was one of my first episodes I did with you. We talked about advertising in video games and how obviously the mobile side of things, like if that was introduced to our premium console games, we would be pretty upset. Um, in terms of advertising, if you're integrating it into a game and making it part of the game mechanic and it doesn't take away from immersion or the story or anything else, I can see it working doing advertisements. We have games like Death Stranding that put Monster Energy drinks in there and it gives you a stamina boost. And it kind of is this funny little quirky thing that's in the game. Obviously, that opens you up to issues of contracts because that also happened with Death Stranding, where Monster didn't want to advertise it in anymore, and I think they had to do something different for the director's cut. I'm not
Isn't
sure.
it removed in the director's cut? It's a
I don't know
different
if it's
can.
removed or if it's a different type of energy drink. I think I heard it was like Rockstar or something. That don't quote me on that. But I would love to see games do more with real world advertisements if it's integrated properly. Like for example, Fallout 4, game that I love, play on PC. I have a mod that specifically changes all of the food items that you can find into the world into real world food items. So I'm not finding just a box of crackers. I'm finding a box of Ritz crackers, or I'm finding a box of cornflakes or something like real world stuff. And these are things that you could put out as advertisements, make more money for the developers, but at the same time, make the world more realistic and more interesting to explore. I think things like that can work. I think there are ways that that could be horrible. Like, for example, I guarantee Rockstar would run away with something like that and make it just miserable, where they would just put billboards everywhere in GTA 6 or something and just advertise the dumbest crap on them and have rolling advertisements on online and just make the whole thing just some slideshow for advertisements. But I think there's a way you can do it. There's obviously a lot of games where you wouldn't be able to do that, like a game like Elden Ring or a game like Skyrim, any high fantasy games. You're not going to be able to do advertising in, right? You're not going to be able to integrate anything into the world properly unless you want to make it immersion breaking. But what you said about interrupted ads in the middle of a game or something, unacceptable. If I'm paying $500 to $700 for a console and then on top of that spending another $70 for the video game, playing on my $60 controller, I swear to God, if I see an advertisement, I'll never play a video game again. Right? Like I will just start watching Netflix. I don't care. That's ridiculous. So
Well, Netflix
unacceptable.
introduced ads too, all right? A lower tier, which
Whatever.
I know there's been rumors of Game Pass introducing a lower tier with ads. If you sign up knowing like at a certain tier you get ads, that's more acceptable to me. Like that's fine, I think. I actually like your idea of product placement in games. I think that's a great solution to this problem where people
Right.
want more ad revenue and don't want it to be intrusive. Monster was removed from the director's cut. I did look it up.
Mhm.
So, but it
Yeah.
is still in the original. But if you're playing games like I know the Last of Us TV show, right? Like they ate Chef Boyardee out of
Yeah.
a can, right? Throw it in the game.
That would be perfect
Get a
in it.
Chef
Well, I don't know
Boyardee.
if you want your product associated with like a depressing game. Like, there's that balance that I feel like advertisers are going to have to make, like certain video games just wouldn't really fit their
Well,
brand,
I got
right?
a perfect one. Forza Horizon series.
Ooh,
you could
really cool advertisements
sell
in there.
out those boards that you
Yep.
smash through, like you jump through the ramp. Imagine just jumping through like the most Tide Pods, just smashing through a
Tide
big,
Pods.
like you could
Yeah.
sell out all those, have billboards and it wouldn't look out of place because it's like, oh, it's supposed to be like they're billboards. Like
I mean,
that's
advertisement
what
is
they do.
synonymous with racing, right? Like you
Yeah.
plaster stuff all over cars, like how they do in NASCAR or Formula One. You have advertisements everywhere, right? It's great. But yeah, I think something Fable's gonna talk about. Wouldn't that be funny? We're gonna go to Taco Bell and then I'm gonna sacrifice you to the Dark Lord. But I think as a consumer, we need to be careful about allowing some of these things to happen. We did it with microtransactions. Remember, we started pushing back on microtransactions back in the day, last generation, and then we just gave up. And now they're in every video game, and it's the personalities of some video games, and it's unavoidable at this point. Microtransactions, yeah, we allowed that to happen because we kept buying them, and I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that. I buy battle passes. I do that same thing. If we allow the little bit to come in terms of advertising, they're going to take a mile because they're going to try and make as much money as they can with this and push us as far as they can. So I think as consumers, we all do really need to be careful in how much we allow it or where we put our money. Like you were saying, the immersion stuff, if we put things in games that make sense in the context, it adds to the immersion of the game and the realism of a game. Absolutely. That would be great. Anything outside of that boundary, though, we should be pushing back on that hard and not allowing that to happen, because the second we do allow that to happen, it's going to be everywhere. We're going to have Taco Bells in Skyrim or in Fable. It's going to be a nightmare.
No, I agree. I agree for sure. Hellblade crossed the Bachelor.
That's great. 1,000-Pound Sisters, Hellblade. It's so wonderful.
I'll send you one, my Rose.
That's awesome.
All right. We can move on from the news because we got lots of viewer questions to get
favorite
to.
part.
So
Let's
if
do it.
you want to write into the show, you can do so in our Discord. That link is down below in the description. Come join, hang out with us. We got a few new members this week. Love to see new people popping into the Discord. Shout out to you guys. So question thread goes up every week. You can drop it in there. Tweet at us at Save Game Media. Tons of way to get your feedback and questions on the show. Just like Terabo did, who says, not every developer is receptive to putting their games on Game Pass. There's a possibility Xbox has missed out on some timed exclusives due to this. In this hypothetical, should Xbox accept timed exclusive deals to Xbox that doesn't include Game Pass? It looks like Ethan's chatting with someone.
There's just a hot air balloon flying through the sky right in the middle of my town, so that's cool.
That's cool. I can answer this first.
Yeah, you go first. I'm looking at this hot air balloon real quick.
Xbox gave up on timed exclusive deals for the most part. Really, we've seen timed exclusive. That is very cool, Ethan. For audio listeners, he's showing me the hot air balloon. Xbox has kind of given up on timed exclusive deals for the most part that aren't indie titles that often come to Game Pass. So I know Death's Door was one that they did a timed exclusivity for.
Yep.
It didn't launch into Game Pass. It did come after a few months. I know that Tunic was a timed exclusive and it was in Game Pass. So typically they do the smaller games that will be a short 3 to 6 month window also in Game Pass, because that is what they're pushing. Just getting a timed exclusive doesn't really benefit them. And we saw that last generation where they went and got things like Tomb Raider as a time exclusive, and it didn't work out for them. It didn't drive console sales. So it was kind of just throwing your money away because people would often wait the year and then play it on their platform of choice. So I actually don't think that they should be making timed exclusive deals. Game Pass deals are much more important to me than timed exclusivity. And actually owning the IPs that are exclusive to your platform is more important.
I absolutely agree with you, and I want to add the point that I think timed exclusives are sort of a system that I think is probably going away, right? It's not as popular as it once was. I think the 360 generation and the PS3 generation, that's when it was really, really popular for timed exclusives. With the new subscription-based models that both Sony and Xbox are pushing, I think having these third-party timed exclusive deals, they're not really as important to these companies anymore. I would love to see a juxtaposition of how many timed exclusive deals Xbox used to make before Game Pass and how many they've made since. Obviously, we don't have those numbers, so I don't know how to compare that. But it is an interesting question to ask, and maybe something somebody can dig up in any financial reports, because I don't know how to do any of that.
He wrote in quite a few more questions. I don't know if we're gonna do all of them this week,
We have
but
like 10 to
yeah,
15
we
questions
have
on this list.
lots.
This is great. I love it.
Sam says Sony is going to have words with you, Ethan. Retimed exclusivity seems to be working incredibly well for them for 4+ years. Sony does do well with timed
But
exclusives.
then Sony ends up buying the studios a lot. Like, I feel like Sony and Xbox are more interested in actually folding people in to becoming first party than they are just making these timed exclusive deals. I don't know.
I think Sony does both. They make plenty of timed exclusive. They make exclusive deals. All right, Final Fantasy VII remake. Where you at?
I only play first party games on Sony. All right, so I don't know that ecosystem very well.
All right. We'll go to It's Kyle next because we have lots of questions, and if we have time, we'll circle back, and or if not, we'll save them for next week. Don't worry. So
Yeah.
It's Kyle asks, do you think it's fair that Xbox has had to take all the blame for Redfall despite seemingly being hands off? Yet the same people saying they're responsible for how bad the game is remove all credit from Xbox for the successes such as Hi-Fi Rush, Psychonauts 2, Pentiment, saying, quote, those aren't Xbox games. Well, if they aren't, then neither is Redfall.
I think it's only a double standard when it comes to games media and Twitter posters, right? Like, I think any enthusiast, and if obviously we're all enthusiasts here, anybody listening to this podcast, you're an enthusiast. You can see through the bullshit, right? You can see through the silver lining, right? We've talked about Xbox's hands-off approach and how great it is, and I made a point when we were talking about Redfall that if you're gonna have this hands-off approach, then you're gonna have problems like Redfall. You're not every game is gonna be a hit, right? Not every game is gonna be a Hi-Fi Rush, right? It's just not gonna happen. So you have to have that give and take. I think there is a way that Xbox could probably do better at monitoring how a game's developing and maybe increase its supervision or decrease it based off of that development cycle. Obviously, you want to do it in a way that's not super intrusive to the creative freedom of the people making the video game. You just want to have some sort of monitoring system. And I think that's something that Phil Spencer said he wants to improve on when he did that interview with the Kind of Funny Xcast. He said, we don't think we approached Arcane Austin early enough in its development cycle to see how they were doing or if they needed assistance. I think that's really where Xbox needs to improve on, where they can take the blame on. Can Xbox take the blame for the entire thing? No, but Phil Spencer is the head of the ship, and it's his job to take the blame for those things. So I think he's doing his job. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. But in terms of whose fault it is, I think it's a give and take. It's some of Xbox's fault, some of Arcane Austin's fault. There's really not one person to blame on this, but Phil Spencer is the head of the ship. He's got to take a lot of the brunt of this.
So I think the question comes out because I have seen certain commentators in the space say that Xbox can't take credit for games like Psychonauts 2 because it was already in development when they were acquired. And now we know that Redfall was also in development when
Right.
Arcane was acquired. So if you're just looking at the timeline here, okay, they bought Double Fine in 2019. Psychonauts 2 came out 2 years later, 2021.
Yep.
They bought Arcane 2021, and Redfall comes out 2 years later, 2023. Yep. So they have the same amount of time in between being acquired and releasing a game. Mm-hmm. In my mind, you cannot, and whether or not Xbox was more involved in one or the other is really irrelevant to me. We know for a fact that Xbox allowed Double Fine to put boss battles in Psychonauts 2. They allowed them to expand it. We've heard they were a little not so great at helping Redfall out.
Right.
It's irrelevant to me because at that point, they're all Xbox games. I really don't understand the commentary where people are like, this isn't an Xbox game, but this one is. It's the same amount of
Yeah.
time in between acquiring and development. In my mind, as soon as you sign on the dotted line that you are now an Xbox game studio, whatever you put out next is an Xbox game.
Right.
Okay. And people will say, well, The Outer Worlds was published by Private Division, so that's not an Xbox game. Even that, they were acquired. I still count it as an Xbox game. All right, it might not be a Xbox first party game because it wasn't a first party game that they put out.
Yeah.
I still think it's an Xbox game. All right, because it's under their umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
I really think people get way too in the weeds about this whole like Xbox can't claim this, Xbox can't claim that. It's annoying. It's annoying rhetoric for sure.
Yeah, it's just the console warriors that we have to ignore.
From this point forward,
I'll make that point.
Any game that comes out now is an Xbox game. Any game that came out in the last few years is an Xbox.
Every game's an Xbox game.
Every game is an Xbox game.
Every single game. God of War, Xbox.
God of War is an Xbox game. Okay. Amon asks, what do you think will happen to Starfield? Or what do you think will happen to Xbox if Starfield flops? Will Phil Spencer be fired? Do you think they turn into a third-party game dev? Amon, I can answer this with one word. No.
For one, Starfield's not going to flop. Let's put that out into the world. I refuse to believe it. Bethesda, I love you. Starfield's going to be great. I've been wanting a Bethesda space video game since I was a little kid. That was like that little kid moment where you're like, wouldn't it be cool if you had this game? That this is now a reality. We're getting
jetpack sex.
Yeah, it's going to be great, Kevin. It's going to be a great game. We got to put that out there. If it somehow flops and it's in the 40s and 50s and the game's buggy as hell and nothing works and it's just no gameplay loop and it's just miserably bad, I could honestly see Phil Spencer resigning, probably as head of Xbox. I mean, I think that would be something that could be on the table. Will it happen? Maybe not. I don't know. I think there's a possibility, though. Xbox will still be around, though. It'll just be another failed game. And, we'll have to hang our head down for it. But Xbox is still going to be around. They're still going to be pushing Game Pass. We're still going to be making other games. But Phil Spencer, I mean, Redfall flopping and then Starfield flopping, that's rough. Not a lot of CEOs can go through that much PR damage without, resigning. He's not going to get fired. He's going to resign. Told to resign.
I don't think Starfield's going to flop, but also I don't think Phil Spencer will be fired because at the end of the day, what matters most is money. And under his leadership, they've set record quarters. All right. They've been making money. So his job for me is not at risk. I do not think Xbox at any point will become a third-party game developer. Okay. What PlayStation becomes the only first-party console, like what a boring world to live in.
I know, right?
Like if anything, Xbox would be sold to someone else, and they would still continue to be a first party, which is still weird. But they're never going to be.
Microsoft isn't getting rid of Xbox.
No, they're not. They're not. I'm just saying there's no world in which they become a third-party game developer.
The thing with Xbox and Microsoft is it's a great marriage because not only do they make money off of Xbox, obviously, but it integrates Microsoft's technology into more things, right? Microsoft already has a monopoly on like operating systems, right? But even if somebody has all Apple products and they buy an Xbox, you still have Microsoft in your home, right? People stream off of that platform. People use Microsoft products to stream, right? It's a big deal for them to have that in everyone's home.
All right, last question. Sam, who's in the chat, wrote in and said, with the PlayStation Showcase now confirmed to be happening before Xbox's, and the assumption being that PlayStation will pack a major punch with reveals, do you think there's going to be additional pressure on Xbox to show to, quote, deliver the goods?
I think there's always maximum pressure on these companies when they do these PR events. Maybe not for Nintendo Directs because they seem to not care sometimes. They're just like, oh, whatever, just throw whatever we got out there. We'll deal with it later. But in terms of Xbox showcases and PlayStation State of Plays, I think there's always maximum pressure on anybody that's putting together those things. And I don't think you hold back cards because the competition is doing something different, right? You're going to put out what you need to put out. You're going to put out what you have ready to put out. You're not going to hold anything back just because, oh, Xbox is about to come out with a big game. Now we're going to reveal this game or Sony's not putting out a game and Xbox is like, oh, we got to reveal this game now because
Mhm.
they're putting out that I don't think that's how that works. I think there's always going to be maximum pressure. Sony's state of play, I am expecting to be really good time. I'm really excited to see y'all's live react. I won't be there because I'll be at work, but I'm really excited to see y'all's live react on that. It's going to be hopefully some great reveals. I have some pretty high expectations for this one. Sony
Mhm.
has a lot of games in the pipeline that we don't know a lot about. We haven't seen a lot about, so they have a lot to reveal if they have that in the chamber. Xbox's showcase does have to knock it out of the park, though. Of course, it always does, right?
Yeah, I think Xbox showcase us to knock it out of the park regardless of what Sony. Like if Sony wasn't having a showcase at all, I would still say there's massive
Yeah,
pressure on Xbox to deliver
absolutely.
because right now they are in such a negative space. Like the PR
Yes.
isn't good at the moment. They need to reassure the fan base that like we have amazing games coming. Look at all the good stuff that we're
You
doing
need
for
another
partners.
hi-fi rush moment right now.
We need something, and I think the showcase, regardless of what Sony does next week, but tune in and watch us live react at 4 p.m. Eastern on
Ooh.
Wednesday, May 24th. I
Mm,
think regardless of what happens there, Xbox needs to come out, hit some home runs, nail it, and
yep,
really just deliver for their fan base. So
absolutely.
we will save the rest of these questions for a later time because, like I said, he did write in with a lot of questions. So
I love it though.
yeah, love it,
Now
love
we
it.
got stuff to talk about.
But that's all for us today. So, Ethan, where can people find you?
In the Discord, come say hi.
And you can find me over on Twitter at the Muffin Mon. It's a 1-7-I and 0-7-A. Follow us at Save Game Media to stay up to date with all of our latest content videos. Make sure if you're over on audio services and you've made it this far to hit that 5-star review. It does help us in the algorithm. I've been seeing the benefits. All right. I see we're going
Thank you
up. I
guys.
can see it where it's all because of your support. So please hit us with those ratings. Appreciate it. And we will see you next week.